Hello, my lovely listeners. In today's episode of Keep Blooming, I am talking about surrender and the solopreneur. So I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Entrepreneurship is hard. Sure, I can create my own schedule, be my own boss, and enjoy the freedom that comes with all that flexibility. But I've also faced, and I'm in the thick of it, one of the toughest spiritual climbs of my life, and that is embracing surrender, letting the Lord's will be done, not mine. Along the way, I have not always submitted all to the Lord, been obedient to his promptings, been humble, and allowed him to work through me, and known that if I have ever accomplished anything, it was through him, with him, and in him. I haven't embraced my crosses and thus have made myself miserable trying to push them away. So if my experience sounds all too familiar, keep listening and know that most of us operate in this way, even if we don't set out to. But of course, there is always another way, Jesus's way. So let's get growing and keep blooming. Want to bring to life what you only dream about? Then you've tuned into the right podcast. This is Keep Blooming, and I'm your host, Liz Montigny. Tune in as I encourage you to drop the hustle mentality for hope and act on the dreams God has put on your heart. Like you, I'm doing all the things as a Catholic, a wife, a mom to 3 boys, and a trained coach. Let's get growing and keep blooming. Well, hello there. This is episode 61 of Keep Blooming. I am your host, Liz Montigny. Today, I'm flying solo to talk about surrender and the solopreneur or entrepreneur, or really any of you who are struggling, working hard, wondering, what all this deep, quiet work will come to. And I've been pondering this, especially during Lent, and thinking about how we go through these struggles and surrender with the Lord in our businesses. And so I want to open that up a little bit. And for those of you who have been listening to the podcast for a bit, you know I like to kick things off with a little Lectio Divina, just to root our conversations in the truth. And because I am recording during Lent and just the theme of this podcast, I'm going to read from Matthew 26:41. Watch and pray that you may not undergo the test. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I actually put pen to paper and created an article on this for Catholic Women in Business. And I wanted to share it with all of you because sometimes, it's just easier to listen. And I was really thinking about that last part of the scripture passage, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so I want to unpack that a little bit. And when I thought about that, I thought about placing myself where Jesus is in the garden at Gethsemane. And he asked the apostles 3 times to watch and pray with him. It sounds like in the gospel he was praying and suffering, close by, like they weren't far from him. He was sweating blood, but they couldn't even keep their eyes open. And when I thought about that in the context of my work, I pondered, how many times have I fallen asleep instead of watching and praying in my work or at home? So falling asleep as a Catholic woman in business can look like putting my business before God, my husband, or my children. It can look like prioritizing my will before God's will. Falling asleep can even look like sleepwalking ahead of the Lord instead of discerning the next right step with him. When I first began my coaching practice, I was talking with someone about strategies for connecting with potential clients. They told me hope is not a strategy. At the time, I don't think I was confident enough. I hadn't endured enough to dig a little deeper into that statement and discussion. So I want to tell you now that yes, hope is a strategy, and it's also not. It's both. Our hope should always be centered in the Lord. I can't, record this podcast and just cross my fingers and hope, maybe a better word is assume, that one of you will reach out to me and become a client, right? However, I can pay attention to what I'm hearing, responses from my emails and what I'm hearing from all of you, and what you want or need, and then ask the Lord how to deliver that as my authentic self. I can pray that anything I put out into the world is ultimately for the glory of God. I can also pray for my clients' needs and their intentions, past, present, and future. So if you're listening to this podcast, I know you have spirit, you have guts, you have desire, and you have motivation, but are you willing to persevere through the valleys of your work, or are you only in it for the peaks? So some questions to ponder. If you don't have your journal out, break it out. Are you willing to have tough conversations with your husband who maybe doesn't see things the way you do? Are you willing to accept failure so you can learn? Are you willing to cheer on others while you wait your turn? Oh, so much waiting in life. Are you willing to guard your schedule and your mindset to make your relationships with God and family the priority over your business? God and family always first, and then your business. It just seems to work out so much better that way. Are you willing to trust that walking alongside the Lord, or even letting Him lead? Now, I know this is sometimes hard for those who, are gifted in leadership and the solopreneurs and entrepreneurs out there, right? Because we have that visionary mindset, right? But letting Him lead is just more important than your version of success, right? So are you willing to trust that walking with Him is more important than your version of success? So, Proverbs 3:5-6, it already tells us we can't lean on our own understanding, but how many times do we try to, right? There are so many tests in business, so many ways the enemy wants to tempt us to make ourselves into gods instead of relying on the Lord. Maybe there are material things you're attached to, or stuff you long for that makes it hard to delay gratification. Maybe you think that influencer is doing whatever it is better than you. Maybe you're caught up in the lie that you should be further along by now. Or maybe you tried something the Lord's way, but were disappointed with the results, so you decide your way is better and stop listening to Him altogether. And just a note on that, if you, try it His way and you feel like, wow, that didn't come out how I thought, more than likely something is going on in the background that is bearing fruit. You're serving someone that you just don't know about. I heard on a podcast recently, about writers, right? This happens so much to writers because they put it out into the world and they may not always hear back, but it is impacting people. So we have to fortify ourselves with the sacraments, absorb the word, and make room for silence so we can hear the Lord and make the choice to listen to Him and trust Him. And that brings me to surrender, okay? The Lord gave us free will and the beautiful gift of our imagination to create our vision and make plans. I'm a coach. That's what I talk to women about, right? Vision and plans. And well, how can you do all that when you're talking about surrender? So He asks us to take risks for Him to serve others, but we have to detach ourselves from how it's all going to work out. We have to watch and pray, right? In the present while we wait for the fruits of our labors. We have to let go of what we can't control, which is mostly everything. But we can go all in on asking the Holy Trinity and Our Lady for the graces to mature and enhance our attitude, effort, and skills. We can go all in on showing up each day and using our talents and gifts in the best ways we can to make a difference in the lives and experiences of our clients, customers, or team. Yes, entrepreneurship, solopreneuring, it can feel heavy at times. It may even feel like you're waiting in the dark garden. Ultimately, though, there is hope that Jesus had the courage to suffer and endure to make all things new, including you, your heart, your mind, your spirit, your family, your impact, your lifestyle, your business, all of it. He's already done it for you. Now it's your time to co-create with him and do your work. Have fun with it. What's that going to look like for you? All right, my friends, I want to remind you that I have a couple things just for you. Number one, if you haven't downloaded yet, get my action planner. It will help you with the subject of this podcast, okay? I put the link in the show notes. You can also go to my website anytime and grab it. That's lizmontignycoaching.com. And in case you haven't heard, I am offering for the 4th year a destination retreat to San Miguel, Azores. It's for a week in October, and this is a really intimate retreat. We're going with 10 women. We have soul core sessions in the morning after an amazing breakfast every day. We are doing 4 masterminds together that are less about tips and tricks and secret sauces and all that stuff that, has been thrown at us over the years, and more about this deep work and what I just talked about in this episode. So, and then there's all sorts of free time and tours built in, and it's really just this chance for you to reconnect and recharge yourself. And I'm calling it Spark. It's a destination retreat for women who want to rekindle the fire in their heart. So if you feel like dim, right? And you need that fire restarted, this is for you. So the link is there. If you have any questions, you can always email me directly. And let's get growing and keep blooming. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Keep Blooming. I share new content monthly. To be the first to know about my upcoming retreats and latest offerings, become an email subscriber at lizmontignycoaching.com. Have a great day, and remember to keep blooming.